Good morning, Next Geners. How are we all this morning? Dan, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, good. Really good, thank you. Sun's shining, another gorgeous day.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I managed to sign myself a new flat yesterday, so I'm on a bit of a high at the moment. So we're upgrading our flat, moving to a new one. So yesterday was a good day, so I'm in a good mood this week as well. So
Cool. That's exciting.
yeah. How are you getting on?
Good. Yeah, good. It's been a good week. Not much has happened. It's like Groundhog Day at the moment, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. Anyways, so today we've got a financial wellbeing thought for the day from Chris Budd. We've got an extended interview with Lee Robertson from Octo Members, and you yourself will be given another great coaching tip in Coaching Focus. But first, we've got everyone's favourite Australian man on the news desk from New Model Advisor. It's Mr. James Fitzgerald. What do we have in the news today, James?
You're too nice to me, Dan. Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Firstly, we've got a bit of national news from the BBC this morning. It's not terribly rosy, but they reported the number of people claiming unemployment benefits in the UK soared last month, somewhat unsurprisingly. The first full month of the coronavirus lockdown. Now, the claimant count for the ONS in April went up by 856,500 to 2.1 million, so quite a bit. The ONS said. Separate ONS figures also showed the UK unemployment rose by 50,000 to 1.35 million in the 3 months to March. So hopefully, as things start to reopen over the coming months, that will surely improve. Now, some NMA exclusive news this morning. Now, many of you may remember that the FCA wrote to approximately 1,700 advice firms last year, roughly in October, probing their DB transfer processes to find a default or potential harm to clients there may be. This contact was part of the regulator's market-wide investigation to DB transfer advice and is still ongoing despite the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we discovered that out of the 1,700 advice firms the FCA wrote to and reviewed, none so far have been asked to redress clients due to poor DB transfer advice or indeed what the regulator has found when reviewing the information and processes. Now, it was a fairly big investigation and there was a lot of information bandied about. And now the FCA, they have been going hard on firms doing DB transfers over the last few years, as we all know, both justified and unjustified. But this may be a good sign that out of a whopping 1,700 firms that have DB permissions, none have been asked to conduct redress so far. So somewhat good news, but take it with a pinch of salt for now. Further on that, I've got some news by our very own Dan Groats on Woodford's, which he so often does. The collapsed Woodford Equity Income Funds, he's reported, has offloaded nearly half its stake in former fund manager Neil Woodford's Patent Capital Investment Trust at a steep loss. Link Fund Solutions, the administrator of the funds, has overseen the sale of over 38 million shares in the trust, which is now called the Schroder UK Public Private. Stock market filings that he found show that LF Equity Income Fund's stake in the trust fell to 4.8% on Thursday, down from 9% when the fund took on the shares in the controversial swap deal in March last year. Now, in some good news as well, also by Dan Groats, shares in Moderna, who are working on the vaccine in the US, COVID-19 vaccine, has surged 25% after the company reported promising results from an early study of the vaccine conducted by the US National Institutes of Health. 8 patients who were administered the vaccine were found to have antibody levels similar to those that have recovered from the coronavirus. So some light at the end of the tunnel there, perhaps. Now that leads straight into markets. So the FTSE 100 gained 4.3% yesterday due to Moderna news of the positive vaccine trials, with some saying if all goes well, we could have a further and more extensive trials by September. The FTSE expected to go higher today and push further over 6,000 points as optimism grows into ease restrictions. So watch this space. And that's the news this morning, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Thanks for the good news as well. And followed on from that, rather than ask the usual question, which you never give us anything away on anyways, we've got a different one for you today. So you are, in case anyone can't tell, you're originally from Australia. And we just want to know how your friends are getting on in Australia, because we believe that the lockdown's been slightly lifted over there a little bit compared to over here.
Yes. No, they've been quite lucky. I think there's only 7,000 cases there reported, and unfortunately 100 deaths, but the country, being a ginormous island, managed to shut the borders quite early, so got away with it, as they so often do. But I think we were talking earlier, restrictions have been eased, and a lot of the states have reopened pubs as of Thursday, Friday last week. So it's been absolute chaos, as you can imagine, and I'm bitterly jealous. So hopefully that happens to us soon.
Yeah, we're all jealous. But on Friday, Gretchen and Tom are running something very special for Next Gen members. So Gretchen, would you like to tell everyone what's going on Friday evening? It is Friday, isn't it? I haven't got that one. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's this Friday. We're running a sort of social evening, cocktail evening. It's from 8 till 10. But I just wanted to, some people had asked some questions about how that might work, whether it was going to be a big Zoom call, everyone fighting to talk and stuff. So we've kind of put some more meat on the bones about how it's going to work. You don't really have to dress up if you don't want to. If it's not your cup of tea, then don't worry, come in whatever. Shorts are allowed. Just join us from 8 till 10. We're going to have a couple of breakout rooms. We'll break out the rooms in Zoom so that we can have sort of mini power hours like we had at the conference. Won't be anything too serious. And then I think we're doing some cocktail demonstrations. That will be Rich, Ellis and I think that was the plan. And you know, which means we'll have to be in our kitchens, won't we? Because we, you know, won't be at our desks. So yeah, all very sort of social, etc. And then we're going to have a quiz at the end of it. So we've opened it up to everyone in Next Gen Planners who are members, because you know, we like to socialise with lots of other people, not just people from the Southwest. So if anyone else would like to join us, then please do. The Zoom link is in the Slack group, I think, that Tom had posted, but maybe he'll post it again today just so that everyone can, oh, there it is, on the chat. So yeah, come along, join us, no pressure. Just have a good little chat about things and a few drinks this Friday night.
Awesome. I think you've released a recipe list as well, haven't you, in Slack? Have you released that in the last few days? Yeah. Do you want to just...
Yeah. So if people did want to make the cocktails that the three of us had chosen, which of course is geared towards the cocktails we like. But if you did want to, then the recipes are, and what you'll need to get from the supermarket is on there as well.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Gretchen. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
There was enough talk about alcohol on a Tuesday morning. It is Tuesday. Yeah, it is Tuesday. We're moving on to Mr. Chris Budd. Morning, Chris.
Morning, Dan. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, mate. And you've got a financial wellbeing thought for the day. Take it away.
Thank you. I do have a thought for the day, and it is a little inspired by what Will was talking about yesterday. I was talking to, I hope you wouldn't mind me calling, an older hand of the financial planning profession, somebody that would be a next-genner by attitude, if not by age. And she was saying that in all the conferences that's going on, maybe we're going a bit too far, and that nobody seems to be talking about investments and stuff anymore, and tax. And I would suggest that that's because although tax and investments and technical stuff is really, really important, it's not for the client. They don't care about charges even. They don't care about investments. And I would offer proof that people don't care about their investments, that they're coming to advisors specifically so that they don't have to think about that they don't care about charges. I would prove that to you with 3 words. St. James's Place. The most expensive company, I think I'm right in saying, in the market, and yet the most successful. They're doing something right, but charges doesn't seem to be important. Now, I'm not talking about the quality of advice here. There's good SJP advisors and not so good. There's good IFAs and not so good. But we can't suggest that the clients of SJP are particularly concerned about the charges or their investments, I would suggest. In fact, I can even go better. I can even do it in 2 words. I would do it with Hargreaves Lansdown. The most, don't know about that, but one of the more expensive platforms, and yet again one of the most popular. So why don't we, rather than complaining about SJP, why don't we look at what they're doing well and take the best from them? And that clearly has got to be their marketing. Why don't we look at what SJP do well in their marketing and try and copy it, rather than sitting on the sidelines moaning about how successful they are? So to finish off, I'd like to offer a tip. This is a comment about marketing in general, not just SJP. Offer a tip from the French novelist Jean Giraudoux. I think it's pronounced, who said the secret of success is sincerity. And once you can fake that, you've got it made.
That's great, Chris. Love that. I love how you've moved from SJP straight into marketing. And as Oliver said, sales. Love it. It's all semantics, isn't it, really, at the end of the day? But yeah, great thought. Thank you very much, Chris. So today we have Lee Robertson of Octo Members on this morning. Hi, Lee, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Morning, everyone.
I was just waiting for, you can't hear anyone, can you? That's not useful. Here we go. So Octo Members has been going for a year now. I can't believe that. I remember talking to you when you first set it up, Lee, when we met at a conference. So can you tell us a little bit about what the original concept was and how has the first year lived up to your expectations?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was the kind of the thinnest of ideas, really. Those of us who are interested and engaged are constantly looking for information, going down rabbit holes, and you can get kind of swamped by stuff. So we had this idea that wouldn't it be great to create a feed of really good quality content, free of ads, that was pretty much practitioner published, you know, people sharing their thoughts, their experience. So that was the idea. It was just to hone down into one single area, pan sector, good people, good thoughts, good practice, and just to explore those areas across financial planning, para planning, marketing, compliance, etc. So in one way, it was very, very thin. How's it done in the first year? I mean, for me, it's been a longer because we had a 6-month beta. But our first full year, we smashed our number of members. We hope to get 2,000 quality people. We've smashed that. I see lots of faces on here that we recognize. We've done, I think, heading for 500 videos now, which is a phenomenal output. For those of you that know us, we're based in a studio complex in Wapping in ordinary times, not our kitchen table or back room. Lots of podcasts. We curate and aggregate other people's content and create a bit of our own. And it's really as simple as that. But it's all based around practitioners and helping them.
Awesome. And yeah, and I've seen your studio, like it's an incredible place to be set up in terms of content creation. It's just amazing. What are your hopes for the development then of Octo Members?
Oh, pretty much more of the same. You know, there are so many good people, and I'm looking at the faces on here, there are so many good people that we want to interview to get their stories, to get their best practices, what they're worried about, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and sharing it with the community. And it's as simple as that. So I've got this huge hit list of people that I'm still speaking to, and you know, Adam and I spoke last week, and you and I spoke fairly recently, Catherine. I think your interview's going up this week and that kind of stuff. But you know, it's about showcasing good people doing good things, but hopefully in the round, not just planners, but also marketing people, compliance people, because I think we work in an ecosystem where we all feed into each other, and the more we share good practice, the better we all get, and eventually, hopefully, better client outcomes.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you describe that as an ecosystem. It's a really nice way to connect everybody together. And you've also, Lee, successfully launched and sold a financial planning business. So what advice would you give to people looking to set up a business today? And what would you do differently if you had your time again?
Oh, wow. It's funny. I did an hour-long podcast on this. So I guess the short version is think long and hard pre-launch about your proposition. Think long and hard about the people that you put around you and the roles that they're in. Use, and this is something that I'm on record, I think that financial planners today are so much better than when I started out. You know, they're technically better. They are really, we're living in this golden age of information and help and support, and Next Gen Planners is a great example of that. So get the right people in the right jobs. I would say do not in any way underestimate how much hard work it is, even with a good proposition, to establish a good business. I would definitely suggest, even for a natural introvert like me, work hard on how you're going to market your business, market your brand, your company's brand, etc. But I guess the single biggest bit of advice I would give, I would say get your company paperwork right in the beginning. Make sure that the people you have around you understand what their roles are, what's expected of them. Make sure company governance is good, because even when you go into business with people that you like, you know, things change over, particularly in a long-lived business like the one I had, things change a lot. So if everyone has a framework within which to work and they understand what their responsibilities are, it gives you a good kind of anchor to go back to when things bubble up and you know, people get a little bit unhappy or they think the company should be going in a different direction, etc. And the other thing I would say is definitely work on a collegiate approach. You know, don't be, I mean, every business has a leader, but you have to have buy-in from the team. So speak to them regularly. So it's about hard work, it's about governance, it's about marketing, and it's about being the best you can possibly be.
Lovely, thanks, Lee. And Octo members recently carried some comments from Alan Easter about cyberbullying within the profession. How was this received, and what do you think can be done to put an end to cyberbullying, if that's even possible? Yeah,
it's an interesting one, isn't it? Alan Easter, who's a personal friend of mine, Alan Easter's post when it went on Octo, and it went on Octo first, it immediately became the most popular post, and over any time scale since launch, since, you know, 6 monthly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, and it's still there. It is obviously of huge concern to people, and it was based around an incident, and I think it's interesting. The single biggest thing we can do as a sector is to act professionally and to understand that things that we say, perhaps in the heat of the moment, or we think we're being smart or clever, in 240 or 280 characters, whatever it is, can be bloody hurtful to people. And not everyone has the same resilience as other people. And I thought it was a particularly ugly incident that this was based around. And I've spoken to the individual who was on the receiving end of it. But I think there are positive steps. And I think publishers have a very difficult job, because lots of people don't like to say things in their own name because they're frightened of their company compliance officer, they're frightened of the regulator. So it's a fine line publishers have to walk. But I think it comes back to personal responsibility. I would, though, commend publishers who now expect people, if you're going to make a comment, make it in your own name, you know, particularly against another person. We have to, and this is one of the drivers of Octo, even if you don't agree with someone, you know, we can agree to disagree. And I wonder where this has gone from British society. You know, we should be able to disagree fundamentally on issues and still have a beer afterwards. And we can act professionally in a nice, pleasant manner without stooping to the brutality that was meted out on that particular individual. And it's not just that one incident. We see it along, you know, I think publishers have things that they can do. Don't hold comments in response in moderation. I understand, you know, headlines have to draw people in, but some of them can get quite clickbaity, and it almost appears like they're trying to, you know, I don't know, as a boy, I remember standing in school playgrounds with kids chanting, fight, 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 when two kids were sparring up to each other. And sometimes it feels a bit like that to get clicks. And I think so, responsibility, but I go back to publishers have a pretty tough job, really. And one person's, what they think is acceptable is not the same as other people. And it's hard to have a code of conduct. I mean, on Octo, we've got a code of conduct. We've only ever had to ask one person to leave. But you don't see the same furore on things like LinkedIn, because you've got to give your real name, I suppose. But the single biggest thing we could do to stop this is what Alan did: call it out, name it, and shame it.
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? It's being able to highlight that it's going on, I think, as well, so that people don't feel like if they are a target of online bullying, that it's not just them, it's not about them, it's about the person often that's giving the bullying that has the issue, not the person that's receiving. And kind of leading on from that, Lee, it's often said that there's quite a disconnect between younger financial planners and the establishment. What do you think both parties can do to bridge the gap?
It sort of overlaps with the last question, I think, here, because, you know, the thing about social media or online comments, below the line comments, is they amplify bad behavior, because good people just don't get involved. You know, they just, I'm not going to even get involved in that ruck. So some of the older and bolder come across as a bit punchy, a bit grumpy, or it's their view or no view, that kind of stuff. So I think if we were to tone that bit down, younger advisors might feel a bit, and I don't want to speak for them, but I suspect they might feel a bit more willing to engage. I mean, I think what next gen, I mean, you know, you're not the only example, Octo's not the only example, but we are living in a fantastic age where people can connect like this. And you can see that people like Chris Budd and me and Adam and some of the older and bolder, we're decent guys, Marley and Outram and all these people, despite the fact we've been around for 30 years doing what we do, we're good people, and we like to engage with people. I mentor 3 advisors at the moment, all that kind of stuff. It's just about building these bridges. And I think Next Gen, along with some of the other platforms, including Octo, another plug for them, I suppose, but it ideally placed to help people understand, and also I think break down some of the misconceptions that older people have about, rabbit ears, millennials. I can't begin to talk about millennials. I don't have children, but there are too many misconceptions on both sides. So the more we keep communicating, the better. Yeah,
well, I don't think it's an age thing, is it? It's a mental, what's the word I'm looking for? It's too early this morning, but it is like, it's not just an age thing, is it?
No, it's an attitude thing. I think if you're curious and engaged and you want to meet people and you want to help people, and I think generally in financial services, that's why we're here. Just the more people we engage with, the better we all become as a profession.
Yeah, spot on, Lee. And the final question that we're asking all of our guests, I'm sure you know this one by now, what are you most looking forward to when we release, well, we're kind of a little bit released from lockdown, aren't we? What are you most looking forward to doing once everything goes back to the new normal, whatever that is?
Yeah, it's, I'm probably going to say very little different to anyone else. For those that see me on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, I like to eat out. It's my ever expanding girth is testimony to that. So I'm looking forward to going out for beers in a pub and a meal out in one of my favorite restaurants, hoping that they all survive. I think they're having a particularly tough time. I've got lots of friends who own restaurants, and they're particularly having a tough time. So a good steak in a red with a couple of beers first, I guess is exactly where I want to be.
Nice. And I'm sure there's lots of other people that would agree with that. But let's all meet Friday night for cocktails, and then maybe if we put it out into the world, then good things will happen. Thanks so much, Lee, for your time. That's fabulous. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So I'm now introducing myself for the coaching focus. So I've got 2 things actually I was going to share this morning. So I'll start with the first and see if I've got time to share the second. I believe I've mentioned this book before, but there's a really great book I'd recommend that all of you go and purchase, and I'd get the book rather than the audio, and it's called Motivational Interviewing. So if anybody's kind of intrigued about coaching and improving their skills as a coach, there's one good book actually here called The Coaching Habit, which is a good one, and this is by Michael Stanier. The Coaching Habit. This is a really good one. It's quite a simple book. Like, it's got some just really good headline questions and stuff in it. It's really easy to read. But the motivational interviewing one is more of a deep dive around coaching skills and coaching questions. And there was a segment in there that I just thought was really interesting that I wanted to share with you. And they talked about how clients can sometimes be working in a state of ambivalence. And working with ambivalence is key to help people to create change. So for those of you who don't know, I'm in a US financial psychology mastermind, and we were talking the other day about how sometimes clients aren't ready for change. So, sometimes they come into your meeting and you can see that they've got some blocks, or they've got some kind of self-limiting belief that they're telling themselves over and over and over and over. And you're sitting there thinking, God, if you just were to let that go, financially, you'd be so much more successful. Or maybe you'd be able to take some more risk that that they need to take, or actually they don't even need to take that much risk. But ambivalence is really important because you have to work in a state of ambivalence in order to help people to change. And the research that's in this book by Miller and Rolnick, they coined a term called change talk. And what they said is that if we question or challenge the client, they will resist the change because it's almost like, when you say why, when we use that word why, it can be a little bit like an interrogation. Why is that so important to you? Why is that? It can be misconceived or misinterpreted. So when we challenge the client, they don't like that. You'll be the same. If someone challenges you about something, why you're doing something, often you'll go into like fight modes. It's like fight, flight, or freeze mode. And you'll often go into fight mode because you're protecting yourself, you're armoring yourself. So often, that's why a lot of coaches say don't use the word why, because it can be quite interrogational. So instead, what they suggest is that you use what they call reflective statements. So you reflect the client's language. So I always think about a mirror when I think about reflecting statements. So if the client says something like, oh, I can't take any risks. Risk isn't for me. Then you reflect that back to them and say, so what I heard you say is that you don't want to take any risks. Tell me a little bit more about that. So you then open it out with, rather than a why, rather than a, well, why don't you want to take any risk, which can be seen as a little bit judgmental. And then they'll just give you the answer that they think you want to hear, is to say, well, so reflect it back to them. So, because then you're recognizing that you're hearing what they're saying, and what they're saying is really important to you because it's what they're saying. So reflect it back to them, and then ask them the question, so tell me a little bit more about that. Or how is that important to you, rather than why is it important to you? How is it important to you? And then you can go into the next phase, which I won't go into today because we're kind of running out of time, but the next phase is around like reframing. So you can get them to reframe their statement, and maybe position it in a slightly different way, maybe emphasizing something slightly different. But if you can understand the root cause of, well, why is it that they are saying, I don't want to take any risk? Then that will give you a whole nother insight into that person's belief. And then it's about really listening to the words that they're using. And actually in the financial coaching program that I started last week, we were looking at this with a kind of trying to pick out certain words that the client uses in their language. So when they're using the word risk, what other words are they using with that? So when you reflect that statement back to them and say, oh, so I heard you say that you don't want to take any risk. Tell me a bit more about that. Then you're really just sitting back and listening to what other words can you pick out? Are they using fear? Are they reflecting back to, well, my dad always told me that pensions are bad, so don't ever take any risks. And then you can start exploring, well, obviously that connection with the father is really important. Why is that? And digging deeper and deeper and deeper, but without necessarily using that word why. So it's a really great book. There's some fantastic examples of questions that you can use with clients in that book as well. And it's deep rooted in financial psychology. So it is very much going to open out your skill base in terms of different ways that you can question with the client. So motivational interviewing is what you want to look up. Again, you can just Google it as well. If you don't want to buy the book itself, just Google motivational interviewing, and there's some really great resources online as well that you can download and start using in your client meetings. So I hope that was helpful.
Thanks very much for that, Catherine, and thanks, Lee, as well, for that brilliant interview. So tomorrow we've got a phone-in with Rohan and Jess Gear on the joys and challenges of working with family members. And then on Thursday's show, we've got an interview with Natalie Wright. I think you found the book there, Catherine, as well, haven't you?
Yeah, Chris has just put the link in as well. There you go. Motivational interviewing. It looks like that.
Oh.
I've actually got it on audio, but I would get the book because you'll want to bookmark it a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks very much, everyone. And we will see you all tomorrow, and have a great day.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.